everybody, happy Tuesday. Dave here, and welcome to today's program. And what you're looking at right here is today's program. On my monitor, we are doing all about bits. Today's program is all about creating your ultimate bit program. We talk about everything from starting out in a rope halter all the way up to a mechanical hackamore. Steve, in this presentation, in this program, even talks about using and riding with a bosales. And we do some talk about driving bits as well. So if you've been thinking about what does my bitting program need to look like, what should it look like, this is going to be a great watch for you because it's going to give you the exact steps that you're going to want to take. Of course, that's what Steve always does, right? He gives you the exact steps that you need to take, and today is no exception. I've gone through, I've edited it, I've put it together as best as I can. There's some great questions at the end, and I sure hope that you enjoy today's program all about creating your bit program. We will see you soon. God bless. Enjoy today's show. Go ahead and just start telling us, why would we choose to use a bit?
Well, for one thing, there's a very old book called the Bible, and it says in there that they have to use a bit because that the mule and the horse have no understanding. And that's exactly right. They are a prey animal. We are the predators. And so therefore, we have to understand their world in order to be able to understand how to be around them. We got to learn how to communicate with them. We got to understand that they have things comfortable and uncomfortable. And that's really important because they don't understand that they have to go with me, a predator, someplace unless I make them uncomfortable. So anyway, one thing we have to understand is that when we go into a store looking for bits, we see walls of bits, walls of them, and bit after bit. And you go on the internet, you see all kinds of bits. The idea of the bit is to teach the mule, the donkey, direction. So to stop, to go to the left, to go to the right, and to even go forward when you put your hands down. So that's the purpose of the bit. And with it, I'm able to go out and trail ride, or like today we were out moving cows, but I have to have the right type of bit in order to be able to communicate. I don't want to create a lot of unnecessary pain, and I don't want to have the mule just put me on ignore either. So there's all types of bits out there, but I've got a bitting program. It's pretty simple. It's basically 3 bits: a snaffle bit, a finished bit, and a mechanical hackamore. That's with riding. And then with driving, I have 2 bits: a full cheek snaffle bit, that's double twisted wire, and then I use a bit that is a multi-bit, and you can use it for finished work as well. And and we'll talk about that, Dave.
So we're going to talk tonight about the bits for riding, and we're going to talk about the bits for driving. And you do use different bits depending on the application, and there's different bits that you'll wind up using in the course of training, and depending on how refined your communication is, depending on where the mule is at, there's so many different. So it's not just, well, confirm for me, Steve, is it one bit fits all?
Well, in my particular case with the mule with its pallet, the one bit that I'm using that I've been consistent with, yes, it works for everything I need to do. And I designed it so that it fits the mule's palate a little bit better. So for instance, I have the bits right here, and this right here is a horse bit. Okay. But if you look at this bit and how it moves around, and then you look at my bit and how it moves around, you would say, well, gosh, they both look the same. But when it comes down to it, this is the difference. I'll put these 2 together here. And then I want you to see that the bit on the bottom is straight up and down.
Mm-hmm.
And notice the bit on the top is tipped backwards, tipped back toward the back of the mouth. You see the difference?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I would take the bottom bit and put another horse bit on it, it would still, they'd both be flushed together. But my bit, you can see how there's a gap because my bit is designed to go back in a pallet more. With the bottom bit being a horse bit, it's too far forward in the pallet, and the mule tends to gap his mouth a lot and tends to throw his head a lot. So just little things like that make the difference. Just because they look the same doesn't mean they're going to work in your mule's pilot. Remember, when you go into a store, those bits are designed for a horse. Will they work? Yeah, you can get quite a bit out of them. But the biggest thing that I have with people all the time is they tell me that they're having a problem stopping, or they're having a problem with them running away, or the second part, they're having them run through their shoulder. Okay. So now, Dave, let's go look at foundation training. How do I get there? And then we'll talk about some different bits. Dave, we have the picture of the surcingle and the mule.
Steve, I'm going to go ahead and hit play here and just let you take over.
Okay. Now, this is our clinic that we had a couple weeks ago. Notice the harness that I have on the mule. It's called a surcingle. The strap that goes through the back attaches to a cinch underneath him. And then we have the breeching on the back as well. And then you can see the bridle is attached to the surcingle, which there's two rings, front and rear. So the bridle is going to go directly into the front ring, and then you can see the breeching attaching to the other ring. Now, what are we looking for when we put a bit on? What do we do to build a foundation? If the mule is listening to the bit, we're going to see what we're seeing right now. You see the mule's head down, and you see the mule's head on the vertical, okay? Now, I want you to also notice how he's kind of opening and closing his mouth and this sort of thing. It's not a big deal. When you first put a bit in a mule's mouth, he will spend time picking it up, putting it down, picking it up, putting it down like he's doing right there. He will spend time asking questions about the bit, all right? And that's okay. Don't let that bother you. Don't let it bother you that the tongue is over top of the bit. Oh, the tongue is over the bit. No big deal. Because see, that's a double twisted wire snaffle bit. And when that bit rubs on the bars of the mouth, it will make them bars very, very uncomfortable. And so this mule ain't stupid. No, these mules are. They'll put their tongue back underneath and pick up the bit and pack it. And that's what I want them to do. Notice that bit, how it's kind of up in the corner of the mouth. And like right about there, okay? And he's taking and holding that bit up. That bit is actually down on the mule's front teeth. It's called a canine. It's actually bumping on a canine. Now, Molly mules have no canine, and John mules, which is this one, has a canine, all right? And so it's down bumping the teeth. So what the mule is going to do, he'll actually pick it up and carry it. I do not create one wrinkle or two wrinkles. I allow the mule to show me where it's the most comfortable packing the bit. And that's the idea. The surcingle, there's nobody on its back. So the bridle, as you can see, is real loose. The mule rider's martingale works on a string. And you can see right there that string attached to the bridle and going from there. And I'll show that right here. What I'm looking for is light. I want it nice and light. The lighter, the better. Now, when we see the mule rider's martingale, we see that there's a string right here. That string goes on the bit, right and left, like a violin bow on a violin. It is not heavy with the rein all the time pulling on it. So when you pick up, you can see this, when you take and pick up on the bit, the string itself works and not the reins. So you see, they have a chance to really be soft by using the string. And what this does is it keeps their head from going in the air and the nose going out. When you're riding, if the mule is truly listening to the bit. If the donkey is truly paying attention, the nose will be on the vertical, the head will be down, they're balanced, framed up, top of the hip, top of the wither, top of the head, always straight across. When they're that way, that's going to round out the back, and it's going to make them drive off their hindquarters. Now, just kind of touching on some things here, if that's all proper, then what we have to do is make sure that when they're shod, the back feet is shod as well. Because if only the front end is shod, they tend to elevate their head and they tend to pull their legs and they hollow out their back. And you don't get the drive from the back end because their feet start getting sore, especially after riding a couple of days. The feet start getting sore, and that makes them elevate their head even more, and their front end starts pulling. And so that's what you want to stay away from. So going back, see what I'm doing here with that surcingle is I'm building a foundation. Nobody's on his back. Nobody's picking up on the rein. So that means the bit itself is actually working. Notice that the reins are not tight. The reins are very loose. Notice that the string is the only thing that is bumping that mule rider's martingale, that bit. That's the only thing. So the mule's got a choice. He can take and throw his head in the air. He can take and throw his nose out. And when he does, that double twisted wire snaffle bit bumps him and bites him. Okay. Now, why do I use a double twisted wire snaffle bit? For one thing, it is softer. It is easier on the animal than a smooth snaffle bit. Everybody thinks they're going to put a smooth snaffle bit on the mule, and by golly, he's going to have a nice soft mouth. That's not it. I have seen split tongues from trainers that are trying to train their mule like a horse using a smooth snaffle bit. Why is that? Because they tend to over pull. They tend to twist their body and pull. They want to make the mule turn. They want to make the donkey stop rather than giving it direction and impulsion. Okay. And that's really important. Direction, impulsion. And they both go together. So with the double twisted wire snaffle bit, it communicates to the full tongue. So when it goes down and it touches, see how it splits apart? And it touches and it pushes against the whole tongue, where a normal snaffle bit only pushes in one spot. And we've done different clinics, Dave, and showed people how much softer the double twisted wire snaffle bit is than the smooth snaffle bit.
Yeah. And
notice that by that picture, you can see that mule has now been in that surcingle for about 2 hours. We started with an adjusted rope halter first, and we got the mule to frame himself up. You see, mules care more about their nose than they do their mouth. So we always start from the nose. That's why I use the come along hitch, teaching them to give to the right and to the left. And then I build it up to the rope halter and I put them in the surcingle. And then that surcingle starts teaching them to get soft. They don't have to worry about the bit. They don't have to worry about picking it up and things like that. They just have to think about their nose, those two knots on their nose, to make the mule get his nose on the vertical like that. When a mule is that way, when a donkey is that way, they are listening to the bit. But you watch people when they're riding. You'll see the nose sticking out and the head elevated. Well, then that doesn't balance and frame up that mule. So what I'm saying to you is, we don't just put the bit in their mouth and say, all right, Steve said it's going to work. Here we go. Here is the foundation. This is what's got to be done first. Do your surcingle work. And if you're a trainer, you can train 5-6 mules at a time doing it this way. But what you're doing is you're allowing the mule to pick up the bit and pack it. You're allowing the mule to be able to understand the bit before somebody gets on their back and starts teaching them to go to the right and to the left.
So this mule right here, he was elevating his head pretty good when he first went in there before you put the rope halter on, prior to using the bit. Matter of fact, I think I've got footage right here. Yeah. So we went in there and you had the rope halter on right there. And what was the sign that, okay, I'm going to go from the rope halter and now I'm going to introduce the mule rider's martingale, the double twisted wire snaffle bit? What was the sign that he's ready for the bit?
Okay, and that's really critical to know when to change bits. When I started seeing this mule take his head, and see right there how it's higher than the wither, when I see him go from that place there as he's moving around and his head's really high, when I see him start dropping his head and get his nose on the vertical, and he's doing that consistently, then I will introduce the double twisted wire martingale.
When we're talking about riding bits, you start with the double twisted wire snaffle bit in the mule rider's martingale. We introduced that when we noticed that the mule has his head on the vertical. How long do we hang out in that bit? Do we hang out in that bit forever, or when do we progress to the next bit? And what would be the next bit for the rider?
Okay, the next bit will be what's called my trail rider bit. And this trail rider bit is a bit that's been used for years. It's called a correctional bit. You can move it several different ways. It's jointed on each end. It's jointed in the middle. So it's a terrific bit that, let's just say I have to take a shoulder away. Mules are bad about running through their shoulder. So if I need to take a shoulder away, I just lift up on this rein and that picks up on the shoulder, and then I'm able to correct that mule. So this bit right here is where I would go to after the mule rider's martingale. Now, the martingale, I would be in it for the next 6 months, training 4 to 6 hours a week for the next 6 months. Now, training, when I say that training, it is in the round pen, doing that type of surf single work and this sort of thing. Now, can I also train with the mule rider's martingale out on the side of the mountain? Yes. Going down the trails? Yes. I was riding Rocky today in this mule rider's martingale. He's got a really bad habit of running through his shoulder. My other two riders were off to my left. So what I was always doing to correct the mule was, first I would go right, left, right, bring, listen to me, left, bring, listen to me. And then I would pick up on that shoulder and I would take him away from where the people were off to my left. Now, what do people usually do? They'll take, and the mule wants to go to the left, so they'll pull the right rein. Well, when they pull the right rein, the mule can just go just as hard to the left. So you want to take away the shoulder. You take your hands, you have them in direct reining position, you take and tip it up like this, and you pick up on that shoulder, and you take it away. Now the mule will go back to where he's supposed to go and be straight. So I can do that in my mule rider's martingale, or I can do that in my trail rider bit. Now, when can I start looking at going from the mule rider's martingale into the trail bit? The mule rider's martingale is designed to be ridden with two hands, direct reining. It's called direct reining, all right? So the day I can one-handed pick up on the rein and the mule back up, the day I can one-handed go to the left, I can go to the right, the day I can one-handed back up in a bridle that's meant to be used two-handed, that day I can start introducing my trail riding bit. Now, when I say introducing, again, notice I am not doing a bunch of riding here. It's not important. What is important is that the mule has in his mind how he can be comfortable. Now, that mule with the double twisted wire snaffle bit, when he started getting quiet in the bit, that's when you start riding. So 3, 6, 9, 12. You do that in the round pen training 3 times in the round pen going around the right, 3 times going around pen going around the left. I'm done today. The next time I train, a week from now, I go those 3 to the right and to the left, and then I add 3 more. As long as the mule is focusing, as long as the mule is listening to the bit and is going around, that gives me 6 to the right, 6 to the left. Every time it goes by the gate, count it as 1. All right. The next time I train, a week later, whatever it may be, Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do those 6, and then I'm going to add 3 more to it and make it 9. And eventually I'll be doing it 12. Now I'm getting a really good foundation. That is your 4 to 6 hours a week worth of training. Now, when I get out and go ride, I'm going to put the martingale on, and I'm going to go through bushes. I'm going to go down through draws. I'm going to go up sides of mountains, or like today, moving cows. Now, the whole time, things are going on. You're not just going down the trail one behind the other. You're moving cows. You got to keep an eye on the cows. You got to keep an eye on the other riders. You got to keep an eye on your mule to make sure he's doing the correct thing. So you're pretty busy. It's not just like going down the trail and away you go. This mule has to move. When I got a cow moving, I gotta move with that cow. And then I got my dog as well, or I have one of the other cowboys' dogs. So we have to contend with that. There's a lot going on really quick. So that mule rider's martingale was my ace in the hole. You know, anytime I had a problem, it was really quick to fix, easy, zip, zap, pick it up, and worked really nice and quiet. So now, let's go back to the bit, go back to the finished bit. The day the mule is being consistent one-handed, I'm going to put the finished bit on a finished bridle, and I'm going to put it on his head, and instead of letting it hang down, bumping the incisors, or hang down, bumping the canine, it's going to be halfway between those, because this finished bit is heavier. And since it is heavier, it's a little bit more difficult for the mule to pick up the bit and to pack it. So I put it on his head and I watch him. He'll pick it up, he'll put it down, he'll even try to get his tongue over top. It's kind of unique because this right here is now taking pressure off of the tongue. You no longer have tongue communication. So now he can even get his bit over top of here, his tongue, over top. So that if he does, that's okay, let him. All he's doing is trying to figure out, where can I be the most comfortable? So with the double twisted wire snaffle bit, for 6 months, I do not touch that bit. It's loose. It hangs down, bumping the incisors on a Molly mule, on the canine, on a John mule. Now, here's what the teeth look like. All right, here's the incisors. A canine sticks up back here in front of the incisors on an equine. Okay, so there you are. So they'll pick it up and they'll pack it. I never create 1 wrinkle or 2 wrinkles. I always allow the mule to pick up the bit and pack it. Then they can frame themselves up and balance. Now, go back to finished bit. When they pick it up and they start holding it, and they do it 3 times consistently, pick it up and hold it, take it off, hang it back on the wall. Next day you train with the martingale, and you say, okay, now I'm going to try the finished bit, the trail rider bit. You put it on, the mule plays with it a few minutes, and then quickly picks it up and holds it. Always note, that's where that mule likes it, right there. And if you will adjust it, there's where you're going to adjust it. You're not going to adjust your martingale, but you're going to adjust the finished bit. So when you see him pick it up and pack it, and he likes it there, then okay, that's number 2. That's your second day of picking up the bit and putting it in his mouth. And he's get quicker. He picks it up and he holds it. I take it back off. I put it back on the bridle ring. Now, the next time I go to do it, it's inevitable. The 3rd time you put that bridle up there, they'll immediately pick it up and hold it. That's where they like it. That's where I'm going to adjust it. That's where I'm going to start riding that day. Now, when I say riding, I'm going to set the mule's back, and I'm going to take my hands one-handed, and I'm going to pick up on the bridle and ask him for a backup. Now, your backup is the same as your stop, because if you've got a good backup, you're going to have an excellent stop. Okay, so think that in your mind. So I always pick it up like this, and I hold it. I pick it up and I hold it. I see the mule drop his head. When the mule drops his head, I give him his bit. I put my hand down. So now I got him to drop his head. So now he's thinking, all right, when you put pressure on the bit, so I pick my hands up and I hold it. Notice I'm not trying to make him back up. I'm not trying to make him do it. I want to set the bit up so that the bit is showing him how to do it. So now he's thinking, all right, I'm going to drop my head. Now you're going to let go of me. But I still keep my hand there. So you can kind of see him looking around thinking, what can I do to get you to let go of me? And then all of a sudden, he moves a shoulder. When he moves a shoulder, I put my hand down. Now, he drops his head. He moves the shoulder. Now what's going to be next? Feet. So again, I pick up on the reins. The mule sits there. He's thinking, drop my head, move my shoulder. You're not letting go of me. What's going on? Then all of a sudden, he moves his other shoulder. You just taught your mule to listen to the bit without having to pull them around. That's the downside of our mules and our donkeys, is we tend to over pull on them all the time. We tend to make them turn. We tend to make them back up, okay? There is foundation training for that.
You also use a mechanical hackamore, but we haven't talked a whole lot about that. Talk to me a little bit about, does the mechanical hackamore come after the trail riding bit? Is it for a specific use? Is it only for refined communication? We'll wrap up the riding bit section here, and then we'll move to the driving bit.
I like to use a mechanical hackamore. It's a wonderful tool. This is made by Rainsman. And listen, it has to be a good quality one. You cannot believe the stuff out there that's made in all kinds of other countries. A good quality bit. So this is the one that I designed, that I use for that Rainsman makes for me. Now, when do I use a mechanical hackamore? When I can ride 80% off of my legs. 80% off of my legs. So that means my hands are barely moving. Mules care more about their nose than they do their mouth. And where they get that? From their donkey. Donkey is very, very sensitive about their nose. So if you're using a mechanical hackamore, you want to use it much like you do a bosale, okay? Now, I've talked about bosales in the past, and I've kind of showed one. Here's one here that Nick West made up for me years ago. It's all handmade. Each piece has been cut out with each piece of rawhide is cut out with a pocket knife, and he made everything here. And there's a bicycle chain in here. I watched him make this one. He took the hide. He was up there in Canada. He took a hide, and he took his pocket knife, and he cut out strips. And then he took his pocket knife on a block of wood, and there was a little notch where his pocket knife stood, and then he had a nail bent over. And the nail gave him different sizes of leather. And as you can see, he cut out each piece with a pocket knife, and I mean a razor sharp pocket knife, and use that. So now this right here is a hackamore, but it's called a bosale or nose band. This is a mechanical hackamore. Whoop, where'd it go? Oh, there it is. This is a mechanical hackamore. So
a jumping mechanical hackamore.
Yeah. And so, your bridle goes through right here. Okay. Your bridle goes through right here. And then you have your adjustment chains. Now, you want to be super careful about this, because you want to really irritate a mule or a donkey, get their nose too sore, get their underneath their chin, get the nerves underneath here too sore. This mechanical hackamore is a great tool, but should not be used until you can ride 80% on your legs. So if I move my leg and I want to go to the left, immediately I get it. So this means I'm going to be using my hands very, very little. Unfortunately, a lot of my clients that come to me have been using two hands on this mechanical hackamore, and now their mule is sticking their nose out, got their head elevated, and they're doing that to protect themselves. Folks, that's all they're doing. They're trying to protect themselves by sticking their nose out and throwing their head in the air. That's what they're doing. So this mechanical hackamore, I'm going to start, but just like I do with rope halter, 2 fingers above the nostril, and I want to have my chain here, my curb chain. I want to have it about 3 fingers from the bottom of the chin. By doing that, then I'm going to have a comfortable animal, because that's a lot of shank right there. When you pick up on that shank, that right there puts a lot of pressure on that nose. And it's an excellent tool. It's a great way to communicate, but you want to ride 80% off your legs before you use it. And again, go through the steps. Okay? That's the downside, folks, is we tend to take and say, okay, I've got the bit, now it's going to work. No. You've got to go through the foundational training to make it work correctly. And if you do, you'll have a happy mule. You'll have a happy donkey, without a doubt.
We're going to move on now to driving bits, because there are unique bits for unique applications. And one of the things that I've seen Steve have to work with folks on is a horse person will just say, oh, just throw a horse bit in their mouth and you'll be good to go. So not only is there a unique bit for a unique application, but it's also the bit that is designed for the mule and the donkey to communicate with the mule and the donkey. And so we've just covered riding bits. Steve, let's go ahead and let's move in to driving bits. Are we just going to use the exact same bitting program that we use for riding as we will for driving, or is it going to be a little bit different and customized for the application?
It's going to be identical, the same thing. The big thing we have to consider now, and this is really important, is your mules and donkeys just don't have a soft face. Not only in this clinic that I've seen it, and throughout the world. I mean, no matter what country I've been in, when I was in Israel, had the same thing. The mule was sticking his nose out, got his head elevated, trying to protect themselves, okay? So by using the surcingle and by using the rope halter and getting them soft in the very beginning, they loosen all 5 of the major neck muscles. And remember, there's a neck muscle that runs across the crest of the neck, one that runs down through the middle, one that runs along the esophagus, and 2 that runs along the shoulder. Those got to get soft. What do people usually do to do that? They usually do lateral flexions, where they bend their head around to the left, bend their head around to the right. You do that with the mule, you're going to teach them to get stronger in the neck. Yeah, and you don't want that, and they'll run right through their shoulder. So that's why the only type of softening that I do on the neck is the surcingle, and you can see it works. They drop their head, they get their nose on the vertical, and they're comfortable the whole time. Okay, now, so let's go back to the bitting. I would still use the surcingle. I would still use the mule rider's martingale, because those tools right there, no matter how old the mule is, no matter what stage of training it is, that right there is what takes and balances that mule and gets him soft in the face. That's what's really important. Now, this mule was a rancher's mule, okay, and seeing cows after cows, but the mule would just blow up, and he ended up having to even tie it to a tree one time. But if we go back and we do this surcingle work like this, whether we're driving or whether we're riding, do this first. Now, you notice I talk about the double twisted wire snaffle bit. I use the double twisted wire snaffle bit even when I'm driving. Now, notice the difference here. Notice what this is. This is a full cheek right here. Now, before, remember, I was telling you to put the bit in the mule's mouth loose and take and just turn your wrist direction, impulsion, okay? But when you're driving, you've got those long lines, which gives you mega leverage, and you've got a really easy to pull the bit out of the mule's mouth. Really easy. So what I use the full cheek bit, and then when I do the same thing with long lines as I do with riding, in that I have my hands like this in direct training position. I go direction the way I want to go and impulsion. And I just wait until they build up the foundation and they make the turns. Pardon me. The downside of the driving, especially if folks walk behind them and drive them before they pre-saddle, is those long lines, people end up over pulling. And there is the downside of driving to teach one for saddle training. I quit that years ago. Doing a surf single is the fine tool. So I would start out doing my foundational training. After I'd done my foundation training with the surf single and the mule riders martingale, and I put them in harness the first time, I would use this bit here. I would not use blinders. I always drive them with open bridle to start with. And then with the open bridle, they can see a full 360 and they listen to that bit. Okay. Then as they progress, again, when they stop easy, when they turn right and left easy and this sort of thing, then I'm going to go into a finish bit. Now notice it's smooth on one side and then it's serrated on the other. Okay. Now, when I'm first teaching one to drive, part right here to go against the mouth. Again, there's no tongue communication here. You're not the even if his mouth goes, the tongue goes over top the bit, doesn't mean a thing. Doesn't mean a thing, because now you're working on the corners of the mouth, and with the curb chain here, you are working off the nerves underneath here. Now remember, there's a lot of nerves here, and those nerves should barely be touched, not pulled and jerked on. But unfortunately, people tend to pull and jerk on them. So I would use this bit here. If I want to take and go the smooth side, I simply pull the chain over. And now that goes in the mule's mouth like this. And now the curb chain's back here. I can adjust it accordingly. Now, when I first start driving, I drive right off the very corners of the mouth using this ring part here. And I'll take my line and go directly to it. As they progress, I want to get lighter. When I go directly from the corners of the mouth, I'm using a lot more pressure than I need to be doing. So I want to get lighter. So that's when I go ahead and I go down to one of these rings here to actually go lighter. So I barely touch the reins. Unfortunately, a lot of folks go directly to here and make an animal really stiff, and especially in harness, they'll run through their shoulder with ease, with a lot of ease. So I would go, this would be my finished bit on driving. I would still use the same foundation all the way through.
In the riding, you have the trail riding bit, and then you can move to a mechanical hackamore or a bosale. Is there something that you might use other than that finished driving bit, or would you would end it up there and maybe go back? Would you ever go back to the double twisted wire, full cheek snaffle bit at all?
I would do that if I've got to correct something. If I'm not getting a good stop, or if I'm not getting a good turn, yes, I would go to my full cheek double twisted wire. I would go there. Okay. But now going back to the riding in, my final is not the bosale, is not the mechanical hackamore. My final is the finish bit, the correction mouthpiece. I only use the mechanical hackamore at different times, just to kind of freshen up their mouth. So I may ride a mechanical hackamore 3, 4, 5, 6 rides, and then go back to my finish bit again. But this bit is where I'm going to stay all the time, all the time. Now, if I've got a mule that is exceptional, that is very soft, super willing, just wanting to go to it, kind of like a Pepe San bred horse or a Tevio Chan bred horse, I would go with my bosale. I spent a lot of time with Nick West up in Canada, and then when he was down here in Arizona, I used his bosale. And this is such a finite way to get the absolute ultra best out of a really good mule. Okay. Now they have to be conformation good in their neck, a tight throat latch and everything. But when I want one to really rein, to really be able to work off my legs, this bosale is the way to go. Okay. It's not for everybody. There was a time when I was showing that they would not let me show with this bosale. They wouldn't let me do it because they said it was too fierce. It was too rough on the animals, you know. which it was not, but now it's chic. Everybody's they're showing with it and this sort of thing. It's a big deal to be riding a bosale. So finished riding wise, I would be using my correctional mouthpiece.
All of this, a lot of what we've talked about today is available in an article that Steve wrote about a year and a half ago. And I'm going to share that right now. It's Mule Bits, Everything You Need to Know. It will guide you through a little bit of the history, the different types of riding bits, the different types of driving bits, and share a lot of what Steve has talked about today on this session. Actually share it in written form so you can go back and reference it. Jackie asked the question, Steve. She says, regarding the martingale, how does it fit and work inside the mule's mouth? For example, does it bend up into their palate?
No, it does not go up into the palate. It goes into the tongue. So when the tongue is hanging here with a normal snaffle bit, it puts a lot of pressure in one spot. The double twisted wire snaffle bit, it goes on both sides of the tongue and covers the whole tongue.
This next question is from Mickey. Mickey says, I have this martingale, but the bit seems way too long for my mule's mouth. Does the bit come in different widths? And do you ride with the martingale?
Yes, I ride with the martingale. Matter of fact, I was just talking about it earlier that I was riding, we was moving cows and taking them back down to the ranch because we do some shipping. So I was riding, working cows, working with my dog, working with other riders the whole time using my mule rider's martingale. I only use the one size. The mule that I was riding today is one of my favorite little mules to ride. His name is Rocky. He's only a 13.2, just a little mule, but he thinks he's 16.2. Going concern, this little mule. But now here, folks, look. It's not like you want to have it on the corners of the mouth and you're working off the corners of the mouth like you do this bit. Okay, this bit works off the corners of the mouth. This bit works off the corners of the mouth, takes away from the tongue. The idea of the double twisted wire snaffle bit is like violin bow going across the violin. So I want that bit to be going across the bars of the mouth, communicating, make your turn to the left, make your turn to the right. So yes, I use the same bit on every single mule. We've got them all kinds of sizes here, but I use the same thing.
Next question we've got, this one comes from John, and John says, why not use a full cheek and double wire for all or vice versa?
Because what happens with the full cheek snaffle bit, when you're riding, you tend to over pull. So if you take my mule rider's martingale with the O-ring snaffle and you pull it through his mouth, guess what you did? You over pulled. So the downside of the full double cheek is that you're trying to make him go, and with the bit coming out of the mouth, it tells you that you over pulled it. With the full cheek double twisted wire, that puts extra pressure on him, and they will tend to run through their shoulder or brace against you. So the idea is here, folks, is that the bit hangs down and it hangs loose, and they're packing it. And you want to move your hands just enough to move the violin bow across the violin, just enough. That's all you want to do, okay? But with the full cheek, that'll make you want to overpull because you want to hurry up and turn, and you don't want to hurry up and turn. You want to build a foundation. You want to go slow. Does that make sense to you?
Question. This one comes from Ron, and Ron asked, what does the finished bridle look like? So you've got the trail riding bit. What does the finished bridle look like? Does it have to use a specific bridle?
Yes, you have to use a specific bridle. You want a 19-inch brow band is the average brow band. Can you see that, Dave? Can you see the picture?
The video hasn't come back yet.
Okay. And you want it to come straight. You want the brow band to be straight the whole time. If the brow band goes down, it tends to make the bit drop in the back of the mouth. So, and then you want the throat latch to be loose. You want it to be about 3 fingers on the bottom on the bottom of the throat latch, so that the mule is able to drop his head, get his nose on the vertical. And so if I'm riding in a finished bit, I want that the part that attaches to the bit, I want it to come straight down the face. I don't want to see the bit tipped back at all. I want to see that bit staying straight up and down.
Jared asked the question, I've been riding my mule for many years with a smooth snaffle bit. I'm wanting to go to your finished trail bit, but would I need to move through your double twisted bit first, or am I fine to go right to the finished bit? Thanks.
Okay, here's the key thing. If riding your mule, you may have to have someone watch you. If riding your mule with the smooth snaffle bit, if the mule's nose is sticking out and his head is elevated, that mule has no respect for that bit. Okay, but if the mule's nose is on the vertical and his head down and he's framed up, then yes, you can go ahead and go from that smooth snaffle bit to the finished bit. But my first guess is the head is elevated and the nose is sticking out.
Joe's got a question. He says, when do you recommend going from the two-handed control of the mule martingale to a one-handed control of the same martingale?
You know, on a daily basis, as I'm direct reining, I'll also take and use one hand just to see if how much they're getting one-handed. And so the day I can one-handed use the mule rider's martingale to back up, the day I can use it to one-handed go right and left, and the day I can one-handed stop, that's the day I start introducing my finished bit. But again, it comes down to where's the mule's head. If the mule's head is elevated, he doesn't have an understanding of the bit. If his nose is sticking out, he's trying to protect himself. So the day I can one-handed use my mule rider's martingale is the day I can start introducing my finished bit.
Kathleen says, what do you think about coppermouth bits? We had this at the clinic, Steve, a coppermouth bit, and that mule wasn't super happy. Why was that the case?
Okay, it was kind of creating, like an old veterinarian told me one time, like a static electricity. And so it was creating that mouth problem. And he was opening his mouth and he was trying to find some way to get away from it. It was a great picture to see. And then it was amazing to see me take my mule rider's martingale and put it on him. And 5 minutes later, he was packing the bit and he was quiet. So you want to use sweet iron on your finished bits. And you want to use steel that will rust. The sooner steel rusts, the better that bit's going to be.
Kristen has a question, says, is the mule palate anatomically different from a horse? And if it is, what are the differences?
Well, the main difference is you got to remember the mule's head is so much more longer, all right? And when you look up at the palate, you can see that it's a little bit more rounded than the horse's palate is a little more flatter. Now, we're going to actually have on the 26th of this month, a veterinarian down here. He's actually a dentist, going to be down here, and we're going to be shooting some video, asking him questions. I actually want to shoot pictures of the palate so people can see it. We may be putting bit seats in. We're going to be doing a lot of work on these mules and horses here.
Ahmed says, do you ever use the full cheek double twisted wire bit with the mule rider's martingale?
No, it makes the mule too stiff. And again, I want the bit to be pulled out of the mouth. Why is that? It tells me that I pulled too much. With the full cheek double twisted wire, I won't pull it through and I can over pull the animal and then I make him stiff. Understand that when you pull on a mule, you're tightening all 5 major neck muscles. So the crest of the neck is going to be stiff. The muscle along the esophagus, the ones that run along the shoulder, the ones in the middle, they'll stiffen those up when you start pulling on them. So going back, I don't care about the width of the bit. What I care about is you don't pull it through his mouth. If you do it correctly, your hands and this sort of thing, that bit will stay right in that mule's mouth. The mule will pack the bit and the mule would have learned to be a neck reining. Unfortunately, you look on in these mules that are for sale that you see on the internet and this sort of thing, You see everybody using two hands. You see the mule's head elevated, nose is sticking out, trying to protect himself. You don't see the head down, nose on the vertical. That right there comes from the right hands, doing the right foundation training. That's where the Hackamore, the bosale works so well. This is the basics of it. I always loosened up my bridle and allowed my mule to take the bit out. So now when I put the bridle on, I always created one wrinkle or two wrinkles, so I would adjust it back up. This day, I didn't do that. I had taken it off the day before. I had loosened it up. The mule spit the bit out, and we're done. Now, the next day, when I put the bridle on, I did not adjust it up one wrinkle or two wrinkles. I didn't do it. So that was my norm. But what happened was the mule picked the bit up and was packing it. I didn't notice it. I was kind of in a grumpy mood that day, I guess, or something. I don't know what was going on, but I went out and I started riding this mule, and he did perfect. He was happy doing things. Nose was on the vertical. Everything was working great. So I'm telling the guys, everybody's looking at this thing, wow, what happened? The mule fairies have been training on this mule, you know? Well, when I come back and I went to loosen up the bit to drop it out of his mouth, the bit was already loose. It was already loose. So I thought to myself, and I looked at the guys and I said, man, I could have been killed here because the bit was too low. We were always taught, you know, put it up high so that the mule or the horse or whatever would have to listen to that bit. No, it's the opposite, completely the opposite. Pick up the bit and pack it, carry it. The tongue will not get over top of the bit because if the tongue gets over top of the bit, it'll rub on the bars of the mouth and it'll make him uncomfortable. So no, it won't, you know.
Very cool. I love that story. Next question. This one comes from Linda the Mule Servant and Theo the Sweet One-Eyed Mule in rural central Ohio. Steve, I think you know that Theo is much better trained than Linda the Mule Servant. I have your come-along rope and rope halter. We are doing groundwork at this level, and he is very responsive. I also have your saddle, breechin, collar, and mule rider's martingale, but we just tack up and do groundwork in tack to learn how to fit everything. No riding yet. Can I skip the surcingle work? He already seems to know so much. Please, can I skip over the surcingle work?
Hey, you can even use a saddle to do it, but what's the purpose of the surcingle work? For them to use the bit and to get their nose on the vertical and things like this. If your mule is getting the nose on the vertical and his head is down in the saddle when you're using that bridle, then go on. You know, it's fine. But 99% of the time, no, it's not. You know, the nose is sticking out and the head is elevated.
This one came in from Wayne. He says, I got your martingale. It's been about 4 months since I used it. He started throwing his head up again. Should I put him back in the martingale?
Absolutely. It always builds a foundation. Get this in your mind, folks. Get this in your mind is, you know, when they go and they're trained, they can get untrained because maybe our hands were incorrect or maybe we went to an incorrect bit. But always go back to your foundation training. If you're having a hard time stopping or turning, go back to the mule rider's martingale.
The last question I've got is from Rory. And Rory says, where can I view how to set up and adjust the mule rider's martingale? This is a question we get a lot. Steve, what do you have for Rory?
Well, we sent a video out with the mule rider's martingale, and that video explains adjustment completely. So, Rory, if you don't have that video, let me know. We'll get you fixed up.
Awesome. All right, Steve, let's see it. Let's see what not to use.
Okay. Anything that goes and uses the nose and the mouth and the chin, all three pieces, don't use that bit. That bit it's great for me as a trainer because those mules run away with them bits. Anything that communicates to the nose, the mouth, and underneath the chin. This is one example. This bit was given to me by a guy that got his collarbone broke and had to run away and couldn't stop his mule. So he says, Steve, please show this to people. I'm not going to name the the maker or anything like that. Okay. But don't get people to see, don't use that bit. It'll get you hurt. And so here's another one. Again, we're using the nose, the mouth, all right, and the chin. And we also have the bit goes way forward on the mule's mouth and on the tongue. It's roller, got a little roller type movement here, and puts a lot of pressure on the tongue. This is also got sweet iron, but it also has copper as well. So anything that works on the nose, the mouth, and underneath the chin, I would never suggest using those bits. All right. Now, here's another one.
They're so pretty, Steve.
Yeah, bits are pretty. Yeah,
cool. They're cool looking.
Yeah. Don't go to the internet. I mean, don't go to stores and buy it because it's pretty. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty is nice, all well and good, but doesn't work well in the mule's mouth. Okay. Here's one that you don't want to use. Okay. This contraption here, just what they call it. They call it
the death trap.
Yeah, gentle control. Okay. Now the nose goes in here, and then this part here bangs on all the nerves on the bottom of the chin. You want to wipe out nerves, use a chain on a halter, or use this thing here. This is I had a guy give me this and said he had bought it from some mule company that said this is the way to stop your mule, and that's all he used. Well, he had nothing but runaways. When he come to my clinic, he says, "How can I help my mule?" I said, "First thing you do is throw this thing in the trash." So he gave it to me to show people don't use it. All right. So that's the main thing. Stay away from nose, mouth, and chin. Any bridle that does that, stay away from it. And remember, the majority of your bridles that are out there are designed for the horse's palate. Okay. And when we have the dentist out here in a week or so, we're going to have some awesome YouTube stuff, Dave.
This was a lot of fun. I know we had a little bit of technical difficulties getting the internet to play nice with us, but we got it working, and we got a lot of education here on exactly what you want your bidding program to look like for riding, what you want your bidding program to look like for driving, and then what bits you just flat out want to ignore, no matter how pretty they are, no matter how much they're calling to you off the wall. Ignore them because they're not right for your mule. They're not right for your donkey. Be sure to go to muleranch.com. All of the products that Steve uses are available there at muleranch.com, from bits to the Single to the rope halter. The Mule Riders martingale is there, and that comes with the DVD. All of Steve Edwards' signature saddles are there. And it's not a mule saddle, folks. Not a mule saddle. Anybody can just slap the word mule or donkey on a box and say, "Hey, we got you a mule saddle." These are Steve Edwards saddles, and they are designed completely unique from everything else out there to accommodate the mule's bone structure. So you can learn more about that there. All sorts of free, the F word we like, free stuff
F-bomb.
available on the
F-bomb.
website, and encourage you all to check it out. Steve, make sure you get lots of rest and go out and get some good cowboy stories the rest of the weekend here.
We're going to do it, partner.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Don't be afraid to reach out if you need anything. Have a wonderful Thursday night. Stay safe no matter where you are in the world. God bless. Bye-bye.